Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2021 movie titled La Soga Salvation. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to a married couple named Luisito, commonly known as Luis, and his wife Leah. The film reveals that Luis and Leah frequently relocate. In fact, they have only been living in this city for about 10 months. While they are about to have breakfast, a news report on a private TV station announces that a mafia boss named El Calvo is still at large in the city, even though El Calvo has already been a suspect and should be in prison. Residents interviewed by the media said that the country needs a figure like La Soga to hunt down criminals like El Calvo and the corrupt officials who work with him. It is known that La Soga is a legendary and very famous hitman in Latin America. The scene shifts back to Luis, who now goes to church with Leah. At that moment, a religious leader approaches Luis, asking him to deliver some speeches to the other church congregants. However, as Luis walked to the podium, a stranger suddenly handed him a business card and also said that he had a job for him. Luis is shocked to see the name La Soga written on the back of the stranger's business card when he reaches the podium. After that, Luis tries to remain calm and continues his speech. Upon arriving home, Luis informs Leah that someone has discovered his identity, necessitating their immediate departure from the city. Hearing this shocks Leah, particularly considering her recent acceptance as a nurse at a hospital. Moreover, Leah has grown fond of living in this city. La Soga, the notoriously brutal hitman in Latin America, turns out to be none other than Luis. All this time, Luis has been moving from place to place with Leah because they want to live a normal life like ordinary people. In the end, Leah, who loves Luis deeply and understands the risks of being La Soga's wife, willingly agrees to leave. Because of this, Luis then apologized and thanked Leah for being a wonderful wife to him. After that, Luis asked Leah to pack their belongings while he went to meet a friend who owed him money. Luis planned to use this money to cover the costs of their move to another city. Not long after, Luis met his friend to collect the debt, and he also told him that he and his wife were leaving the city, so he really needed the money. Upon hearing this, Luis' friend, who was the owner of a shop, asked why Luis was leaving so suddenly and said that he didn't have the money yet. Luis explains that he needs the money now because otherwise, his wife will be frustrated with him. Finally, Luis' friend promises to try to find a way to pay back the debt. As a result, he requests that Luis remain at the store while he briefly returns home to visit his child. Shortly after, an arrogant and suspicious-looking man arrives. After buying something and while about to pay, the man suddenly attacks Luis. It turns out that he is not alone. Forced to act brutally, Luis, now hiding behind the store, eventually eliminates the two attackers. Afterward, Luis rushes home, believing that Leah must be in danger. Upon arriving home, Luis finds the stranger who had given him the business card at the church. The man revealed himself to be Ramon and immediately told Luis that he had a mission for him. At the same time, the two men who attacked Luis at the store were also Ramon's henchmen. Unfortunately, Luis seems uninterested and only asks where his wife is. Ramon replies that he has already secured his wife, and for Luis to ensure her safety, he must fulfill his assigned mission. Upon hearing this, Luis becomes enraged and intentionally injures Ramon's hand. Ultimately, Luis, not wanting any harm to come to his wife, agrees to take on the mission. Ramon then explains that Luis' mission is to eliminate someone named El Calvo, the mafia boss featured in the morning news. We see a woman named Agnes seducing a dark-skinned man, who eventually succumbed to her charms. Therefore, Agnes invited the man to a nearby hotel. However, just as they prepared to depart in the car, an unexpected attack occurred within the vehicle. Agnes, a professional hitwoman on a mission, confronts the man about Leah's whereabouts. The man, one of Ramon's henchmen, eventually reveals the information, as he is unable to withstand her torture. After obtaining the information, Agnes immediately kills the man. The next morning, Ramon and his henchmen meet at a specific location. Ramon is immediately furious because only one of his men is present, despite having assigned 3 men to guard the location where Lee was being held hostage. When Ramon checks on Lee, he becomes even more enraged, believing his henchmen have overdosed her on sleeping medication. Ramon cautions that La Soga will undoubtedly eliminate them if anything happens to Lee. Therefore, Ramon instructs his henchmen to be careful in guarding her. A few minutes after Ramon leaves, Agnes suddenly appears at the location, where she seduces Ramon's henchmen and simultaneously attacks them. After that, Agnes enters and immediately rescues Lee. Later, Ramon gathers all his henchmen and expresses his fury over Leah's kidnapping by someone else. Once he completes his mission, Ramon orders them to eliminate Luis. Should Luis discover his wife's disappearance, he will undoubtedly pursue them. The scene shifts to Luis, who is still searching for El Calvo, his target. At the same time, several of El Calvo's henchmen approach Luis, and they inform him that El Calvo wants to meet him to discuss something important. Calmly, Luis consented to accompany El Calvo to his residence, where he would meet the city's boss and drug lord. Meanwhile, they were unaware that Agnes had been secretly monitoring them the entire time. She even planted a listening device in the location. At El Calvo's residence, he immediately confided in Luis about his profound animosity towards officials, including a senator. Apparently, El Calvo had given a large sum of money to officials and the senator during their election campaigns. However, after winning the elections, they turned against El Calvo and tried to get rid of him. All this time, El Calvo has managed to survive because he possesses important documents that are stored in a safe. These documents contain all the evidence of the corrupt officials' crimes and the bribes they have received. Upon hearing this, Luis inquired about its relevance to him and the reason El Calvo was sharing this information with him. It turned out that El Calvo wanted Luis to keep the documents, having discovered that Luis was La Soga, the infamous assassin known for slaughtering corrupt officials. Therefore, El Calvo hoped that Luis would soon eliminate the corrupt officials. On the other hand, Agnes, who overhears that Luis is La Soga, is shocked and surprised that the legendary figure everyone idolizes is now in front of her. When the opportunity presented itself, Agnes proceeded to kill El Calvo and several of his men, as El Calvo was one of her targets. Simultaneously, Luis made the decision to depart without delay, only to confront some guards who mistakenly believed he had killed El Calvo. As Luis finally got outside, Agnes arrived and told him to get into her car. After driving a bit further, Luis asked Agnes if she was the one who shot El Calvo. Confirming this, Agnes explained that she is also an assassin, just like Luis. Hearing this, Luis told her that he had long since stopped being a hitman and asked why Agnes saved him. However, Agnes replied that she felt proud to save a legend like La Soga. Luis then tries to contact Ramon to inform him that El Calvo is dead and that he wants Leah returned immediately. Unfortunately, Ramon's phone is not reachable, while Agnes hides the fact that she is holding Luis' wife, not Ramon. After parting ways with Agnes, Luis manages to reach Ramon on the phone. Luis informs Ramon about the completion of the mission and requests Leah's immediate return. Upon hearing this, Ramon replies that he will deliver Luis's wife to an abandoned factory within an hour. At the same time, Leah is still being held hostage by Agnes in a basement, where Agnes reveals that she has her own reasons for wanting to eliminate both Leah and Luis. Some time later, behind the abandoned factory, 3 of Ramon's henchmen are waiting to kill Luis. When Luis arrives, they immediately start shooting at him. After a while, one of Ramon's henchmen checks, but Luis sets a trap, quickly eliminating him. At the same time, Luis easily dispatches another of Ramon's henchmen, leaving just one. At last, Luis confronts the final henchman and inquires about Leah's location. The man responds that Ramon solely paid him to kill Luis and he has no knowledge of Leah. Without waiting for any further information, Luis immediately killed the man. After that, Luis decides to return to his old home. At that moment, Luis looks at a photo of his wife and recalls past memories. It turns out that Leah was the only person who accepted him as he was, and she also knew that Luis was La Soga. At that time, Luis and Leah really wanted to have children after they decided to get married and live in this city. Shortly thereafter, Agnes approaches Luis and informs him that she has just successfully eliminated 2 of Ramon's henchmen outside. More of Ramon's henchmen confront them 5 minutes later, sparking a shootout. Luis sustains a gunshot wound to his hand during the battle, but he and Agnes manage to eliminate the attackers. Afterward, Agnes invites Luis to her home to treat his wound. Agnes unexpectedly signaled intimacy while Luis was receiving care at her house. However, Luis refused because he didn't want to betray his wife. The following day, Ramon makes an attempt to escape the city, but Luis swiftly shows up and seizes him at gunpoint. Agnes, meanwhile, pays a visit to Leah, who remains imprisoned in a basement. At that moment, Agnes says that she can kill Luis anytime but wants to see him suffer before doing so. Upon hearing this, Leah begs Agnes not to harm Luis, stating that he has long since renounced his life as a hitman and does not wish to revert to brutality. The reason Agnes desires to inflict pain on Luis prior to his demise becomes clear. It turns out that Agnes has been searching for La Soga because he killed her father. When Agnes was a child, La Soga killed her father, the chairman of the parliament, because of his corruption. As a result, Agnes began to seek revenge against him. The scene shifts to Luis interrogating Ramon in an undisclosed location. At that moment, Luis asks what Ramon truly wants, and he reveals that he wants El Calvo's flash drive to blackmail officials. After that, Luis asked Ramon about Leah's whereabouts, but there was no answer. Several tortures later, Ramon finally confessed that someone else had kidnapped Leah, promising to assist Luis in finding her if he allowed him to leave. Luis agreed, providing Ramon could leave in 10 seconds. Given the close proximity of the door, Ramon attempted to walk, but Luis unexpectedly shot his leg. Desperately, Ramon struggled to reach the door, knowing La Soga never broke a promise. Regrettably, Luis killed Ramon when he failed to reach the door. Simultaneously, Agnes sends Luis a message instructing him to come to a specific location, as she has abducted Leah. When Luis arrives, he sees 3 homeless people playing music but ignores them and goes inside. At that moment, Agnes, accompanied by a corrupt senator, approaches Luis. Agnes states that she could have killed Luis yesterday, but she prefers to witness his suffering first. Agnes brought in Leah, who was still in captivity, and commanded Luis to surrender if he wanted Leah to survive. Therefore, Luis chose to surrender and endured torture. Simultaneously, an elderly corrupt senator arrived, as Agnes had been employed under his supervision. It turned out that the senator came to retrieve a flash drive containing evidence of corrupt officials' crimes, including his own. Upon acquiring the flash drive, the senator instructs Agnes to release Luis and Leah, as his business has reached its conclusion. Furthermore, the senator is aware that Luis is no longer the corrupt official known as La Soga. Agnes, however, asserts that her mission against Luis for her father's death remains unfinished. Agnes then loads a single bullet into a pistol and shoots at Leah. The first shot misses, but Agnes tries again, this time hitting Leah in the head. In the end, with satisfaction, Agnes reveals that Leah was pregnant with Luis' child. As their business concludes, the senator and all his henchmen depart, leaving Luis visibly devastated. Agnes then approaches and tells Luis that she plans to cripple all his limbs so that he will suffer greatly. At that moment, Luis manages to free himself and immediately attacks Agnes. The senator and his henchmen, who haven't gone far, attempt to attack Luis, but he swiftly eliminates them. After that, Luis approaches the senator and declares that he will return to being La Soga, the one who slaughters corrupt officials, including the senator. Luis visited Leah's grave some time later. At that moment, Luis pours out his heart, declaring that no one can ever replace Leah. After that, Luis departed, pledging to eliminate all corrupt officials after discovering the list on El Calvo's flash drive. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.